The immune system in trees. Plants do not have immune systems like animals. Instead, they have evolved an entirely different way of dealing with infections. In trees, this process is known as the compartmentalization of decay in trees, or CODIT. Trees' immune system has the ability to generate new cells but not to repair damage. Trees respond to disease and injury by walling it off from their living tissues. There's 3 steps to this process. Step 1 is to minimize the spread of damage. They do this by strengthening their walls between cells, and this is done through chemical means. Step 2. They construct new walls around the area so it blocks the compartment off from the surrounding vascular tissues. Step 3. They respond by keeping growing. New tissues grow around the infected compartment, and if the tree is healthy enough, will outplace further infection. By walling off the affected area and pumping it full of compounds that kill living tissues, the tree essentially cuts off the food supply to the disease-causing organism. This process is not always 100% effective.
This is Channels Television's breaking news.
Breaking news. There has been a measles outbreak among young children in New Orleans. Physicians are advising parents to vaccinate their children. Doctors suspect the rise in measles may be due to the growing number of parents choosing not to vaccinate their children.
Today, we have Julia Pest here to talk about the importance of vaccines. Hi, Julia. Hey, guys.
So could you give us a little background information about vaccines?
Sure. Vaccinations help protect people from infectious diseases. Vaccines are kind of like training for the body. When bacteria or viruses enter the body, immune cells respond by producing antibodies that fight the antigen and protect against further infection. The problem with this is it can take the body several days to develop this protection, and for some really bad antigens, a few days is too long. The person may die before the body has a chance to fight back. Vaccines are made of dead or weakened antigens. They can't cause an infection, but the immune system still produces antibodies to protect against it. Immune cells remain in the body, so the next time the body encounters that disease, it will know how to protect against it. Vaccines have prevented numerous accountable diseases, including smallpox, measles, and tetanus, are all effectively prevented by vaccines.
So, would you say vaccines are a very important way to keep healthy?
Yes, vaccines are very important in preventing epidemics. Epidemics are when an infectious disease spread rapidly to many people. Epidemics can even become pandemics as they spread globally.
Could you give us some examples of epidemics for our listeners?
Sure. Smallpox was a contagious disease caused by the variola virus. It killed millions of people until it was eradicated due to the use of vaccines. Malaria is a mosquito-borne infectious disease that is widespread in the tropical area. Malaria can also cause death, and there are millions of cases of it each year. Measles is a very contagious disease. Measles has killed millions of people over the last 150 years, and before the measles vaccine was invented, 90% of people that got the disease died before their 15th birthday.
So, are most outbreaks in global disease caused by infections?
Yes, most outbreaks are caused by an infectious disease, but a disease outbreak is when a disease occurs in greater numbers than expected in a community or region or during a season. It doesn't always have to be caused by an infectious or contagious disease. Outbreaks can also happen from exposure to certain chemicals or radioactive materials. Sometimes the cause of an outbreak is unknown. There are many things that can lead to an outbreak. For example, a form of pathogen may emerge that people don't have immunity or resistance. For example, a pathogen can mutate and previous medicine can become less effective or ineffective. Contamination of food or water can contribute to an epidemic outbreak. Movement of people can also spark an epidemic because people are exposing each other to diseases they have no resistance to. Also, human activity like unprotected sex and drugs with dirty needles can be a large factor in infectious outbreaks.
Thanks for that great info. Later various diseases affect the body and the best way to stay.
Comparison to the immune system in insects. Insects rely on innate immunity for survival. This innate immunity is divided into two classes. Firstly, let's cover the cellular response. In cellular response, insects do not have a circulatory system like us, in which the heart circulates the blood. They have a body cavity, referred to as the hemocell, in which the blood resides. Insect blood is referred to as hemolymph. In the body cavity, they also have a tube-like hearth, which sucks the hemolymph from one side and pumps it back into the hemocell on the other side. Insects do not often use blood to transport oxygen. The blood of insects consists of three cell types. 1. The plasmatocytes, which compares to white blood cells in humans and makes up 90 to 95% of the insect's blood. 2. Crystal cells, which are antimicrobial particles that make up about 5% of the blood. 3. Lamellocytes, which can handle larger microorganisms than the previous cell I mentioned, plasmatocytes, and they account for very little of the blood in insects. Second class of innate immunity in insects is the systemic immune response. In the systemic immune response, insects synthesize massive amounts of antimicrobial peptides, referred to as AMPs, to respond to an infection. These AMPs can be produced in the liver, which is called body fat in insects. The liver produces large amounts of AMPs, which it secretes into the hemolymph, where the AMPs fight the infection. Insects start to make these AMPs once they start to recognize the infection. These proteins, AMPs, are secreted into the hemolymph or other tissue depending where the infection is, and they attack and kill the microorganism. This is how the immune system works for insects.
So leukemia is cancer that causes the body to make too many abnormal white blood cells. This results in an excessive amount of white blood cells that may be immature, which is acute leukemia, or mature, which is chronic leukemia. The leukemic cells may not function well to fight infection and may interfere with the production of red blood cells, which carry oxygen, and platelets, which control bleeding. Bone marrow spends a lot of the time making white blood cells, so the body is at risk of developing severe and sometimes fatal infections.
Is there a cure for this?
There is no 100% effective cure, but sometimes radiation, chemotherapy, or bone marrow transplant can cure some. Many important diseases that attack the body have no cure, so it is important to prevent them if possible.
Which of these diseases can be prevented?
Well, HIV can be prevented, and type 2 diabetes can also be prevented. HIV attacks specific immune cells called T cells. When this cell is destroyed, it becomes harder to fight off infections. Without treatment for HIV, small infections such as a cold can be much more severe. When HIV kills T cells, it uses them to make more of the virus. When too many T cells are destroyed and the count drops below 200, HIV has progressed to AIDS. HIV is transmitted through blood, semen, vaginal fluid, breast milk, and sharing needles. AIDS is almost always leads to death. HIV treatment does not cure and only slows the disease.
You mentioned diabetes.
Yes, type 2 diabetes can be prevented, but type 1 cannot. This type occurs when the body's immune system mistakenly destroys the insulin-producing cells in the pancreas, and there is no cure, and the treatment involves the managing of blood sugar levels with insulin, lifestyle, and the diet to prevent complications from arising. Rheumatoid arthritis is also another disease with no cure that can only be helped with treatment. It is a progressive disease that affects the lining of your joints and causes painful swelling. This occurs when your immune system mistakenly attacks its own body tissue.